Done this. It's the first time I've ever done this. My name is Lisa Loving, and I'm getting ready to run this workshop here, hopefully on Facebook. Not crystal clear, but that's all right. Trying to make it happen. Um, so I am a local journalist and author, and I spent many years working in community media, and I'm hoping that people are showing up right now for this live stream. It doesn't really tell you, the internet doesn't tell you if it's working or not, but I hope it is. I see, I actually see the little circle spinning. So we're just hoping that this is working out. And so I'm Lisa Loving. I'm in my office right now. I wrote this book, Street Journalist, Understand and Report the News in Your Community, because I'm concerned that the world is melting down, and I feel that people need to have the most tools that we can to uh, share our news and connect with each other. But this workshop that I'm hoping is happening right now is called How to Write Your Rant. And I have never done this live stream before. And a lot of people are at home right now and not able to go anywhere because of the coronavirus epidemic. So I'm hoping that maximum number of people will be able to tune into this information and hopefully get something out of it. So just to start, I also wanted to introduce someone special. This is my dog, Riley. Riley is the new sound. If you hear a bunch of barking, it's gonna have been him. He's a good dog. Anyway, so I can't totally tell right now if people are tuning in, but I'm Lisa Loving. I'm broadcasting live from Portland, Oregon, and it's a beautiful Sunday. I hope that it's beautiful wherever you are as well. And so I wanted to say, if you're interested in learning the tools of journalism, I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of workshops, basically to share these skills with you. And we're also broadcasting live on YouTube right now. That's the Lisa Loving channel. Sounds crazy, hasn't it? Lisa Loving channel. But anyway, if you are interested in learning more about how to interview, tools such as your cell phone, using your cell phone in journalism, follow me on social media. And I'm going to be setting up a lot more of these workshops online so that people in other places can pick up these skills, because they're not brain surgery now. And my website is streetjournalist.com. That's street-journalist.com. On Facebook, Media for the People. And also I have a writer page, Lisa Loving Writer. I'm on Instagram, L Loving on Instagram. And I really want to be able to connect with people to help you pick up these important skills. Because honestly, I'll say it again, this is not brain surgery. And when you can take the time to learn how information works, how you can do journalism, that means that you're also able to learn more about how to take in the information that you're seeing in your networks. Because right now, there's a lot of disinformation happening, but that's actually always been the case, in fairness. And we could talk about that some other time. If you have questions or comments for me, I would love it if you posted them on my social media, posted them on my Facebook. Again, on Facebook, I'm Lisa Loving Media for the People, and also I have a writer's page. I'm going to be doing more workshops on the writer's page. I'm really looking forward to, in the next week or two, setting up a memoir writing for everyday people class. And I'm hoping that people are willing to invest in some of this knowledge as well. But this Write Your Rant workshop today, this free workshop, is for you. And so I just want to thank people who are here. Thank you for being here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start going through the workshop. I also have slideshows for this material. I can come in person in the Portland metro area or Washington and California to give these slideshows as well. And I have already given this How to Write Your Rant workshop from coast to coast. So contact me in my social media and let me know how I can support what you're doing and let me know what you need. So going to start. Uh, going to start right now with the content, how to write your rant. Um, a wonderful songwriter named Jello Biafra actually said a few years ago, don't hate the media, become the media. And that's what I'm hoping that you will do. You will take ownership of what's happening in our media landscape right now, because honestly, we're seeing that media outlets all over the world, but especially in the United States, are kind of collapsing. And as a matter of fact, the current coronavirus epidemic has prompted one of our local alternative media outlets to lay off half their staff and just go to online reporting. And when that happens, it means that there's a lot of information that doesn't go out about our society, about our communities that people really need. So I'm just encouraging everyone who's listening or watching this cast to consider picking up the tools of journalism and sharing information, real information. And actually, again, my book, Street Journalist, Understand and Report the News in Your Community, is just for you. It was written for everyday people to pick up the tools of journalism, and it's published by Microcosm Publishing in Portland. That's microcosm.com. You can get it online. You can also get it from pals.com, Powell's Island of Books. So anyway, let's start. Right now, I'm going to go over an entire overview of how to write your rant. And then over the next 5 days, I'm going to break it down into pieces and come back to you for people who want to really complete some writing. And I have a challenge on my Facebook group, how media for the people, to bring people through these pieces, because I just feel so strongly that, especially now, it's important that people learn how to share our ideas in a way that's productive. So I'm broadcasting live on Facebook right now and on YouTube, and I'm going to be continuing to do that all throughout the week. The other days of this week, these live casts are going to be at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So I hope you can join me. They're going to be recorded also and kept on those platforms so that you can go over them as well. And I love to help you with your ideas. So reach out to me on the social media. So don't cry, don't touch your face, because anyway. So let's get into it. We're talking about how to write your rant this afternoon. A rant. What is a rant? What do I mean by rant? A rant, I'm thinking of a form of opinion writing. It's different from journalistic reporting, but important in its own right. A lot of rants or opinion writings or editorials or commentaries or letters to the editor or testimonials that you will see out there in the world are giving you important information that you may not get otherwise. And sometimes the best rants incorporate factual information to support those opinions. So my first question is, why rant? Why do people rant? A lot of times a rant, or you're sharing your opinion to advocate for your community, whoever your community might be, or you might be trying to make an important point about something. I see a lot of people having issues around, why are we self-isolating right now? That's a rant. That's a discussion that people are having to make an important point. Another reason to rant is for the joy of sharing ideas. We do that all the time, even at the grocery line. Another reason people might want to rant or share their opinion is to put your voice on the official record. Say, for example, a city council hearing, or some sort of public forum testimony, when maybe elected officials are in the room and there's a microphone and you get to go up there and tell them what you think. And later, I'll ask you, if you could think of any other examples of when you might want to rant. So. Okay, now the second point, how do you build a good rant? How do you create an important piece of analysis that you want to share with people? Well, I want to say that you start by asking, who are you talking to? Who am I talking to? Right? Because when you start, instead of just thinking of the entire world, I'm just going to, spew my opinion out there to everyone. If you can focus on who you're talking to, then you can tailor your language and your approach to whoever that is. Are you talking to the mayor, or are you talking to high school students? Or are you talking to my mother in the grocery store line? Or maybe you're talking to the president of the United States. Who you're talking to is going to impact the language you use. Okay. So start by asking, who am I talking to? The next question that you have, the next piece of how to write a rant is, what are you asking your listeners to do? This is really important. I mean, for the most part, we're not just, again, solid shootering our opinions all over the landscape. We want people to do something. And that's a really specific thing. So ask yourself, what do I want them to do? This is also called a call to action, right? What call to action do you have? Even, sometimes you might just want people to be more aware. You're not necessarily asking them to do something physical. You're asking them to open their minds and pay attention. That's still a call to action. So, who are you talking to, and what do you want them to do? Those are the first questions that you're actually going to have, okay? Before you start. Now, I want to go to, how do I start, right? How do I start? When you're actually writing or coming up with your initial idea of what's going on around you or what you want to share with people, you're going to start with deciding what's the single most important thing you want to say. Okay? What's the single most important thing you want to say? And I want you to write that down in sentence format right now. Or maybe record it. Record it on your phone or some device, but I need you to mark it down. Don't just let it rattle around in your head. What's the single most important thing you want to say? You have to decide that. Okay? Now, step 2. This is really easy. Step 2. Think of one important point about your main point that supports what you're trying to say. It could be a fact about that point. It could be, or maybe a little bit of background information about that point, such as how you came to it. But I want you now to think about what's the second, what is an important point about your main point that supports it. Like the posts that keep a fence up, right? So what is an important point about your main point that supports it, right? And write it down. All right. Now you're going to get annoyed because I'm going to look at you. I'm going to wipe my nose and I'm going to say, do that same step I just gave you a couple more times. In other words, you're going to have a main point, and then you're going to come up with some facts to support it. Gather those facts together. Write each one down in sentence format, right? And I'm going to give you an example, my own example in a minute. But your biggest goal here is to come up with the most important point you're trying to make, and then supporting facts or supporting points to bolster that. Okay. Could be 2 or 3 more times that you're coming up with supporting points. It depends on what you're putting together. You might be just doing a 3-minute testimony before your city council. Where I live in Portland, Oregon, every city council meeting opens with 3 moments of open testimony, and people can sign up for that 3 minutes. You could talk to the city council about anything you want. So if you're going to give a 3-minute testimony, then maybe you only need 2 supporting facts. But then at the same time, you might say to yourself, I want to write a commentary and I want it to be published in our newspaper, right? There still are newspapers. So you might want more supporting facts if you're doing that, right? So think about it. You are the master of information right now, okay? All right, now, here's the last step, the last major step in writing it anyway. You've got your main point. You've got supporting points, right? Each one is like a fact or perhaps some sort of follow-up commentary. We'll talk about that in a second. Comment that tells people how you came to this point. But we'll come to that back to that in a minute. But the last thing, the last part of your rant is that you want to repeat the sentence that you had at the beginning, your most important point, and you want to add to it a call to action, what you want people to do. Remember, we talked about that a few minutes ago, right? So, lastly, you're repeating the sentence you created in step one. Maybe put it in different words and add a call to action. Okay? Now you have a main point, a supporting point, another supporting point, and then you're restating your first point with a call to action. See how simple that is? That's literally 4 steps. Media for the people. That's literally 4 steps. Okay? Now, here's a little follow up. In order to make it most accessible to people, I want you to read it out loud to yourself and correct the language until it sounds like something you would say to your neighbor. Why am I suggesting that? Why am I suggesting that? Because we already talked about why, thinking of who your audience is key. If you're a scientist and you're speaking to, I don't know, your fellow scientists, you're probably going to use a lot of sciencey words that your neighbor won't understand, right? That's its own thing. But for the most part, I have to say, we don't always remember or realize that the words that we're putting on the record become part of the historic record, right? The words that we're sharing are words that people will access 10 years from now, 20 years from now, right? So all kinds of other people are going to be seeing your words that may not be the audience that you had intended. You're keeping that in mind as well. I know it's so much on the pizza now, but if you can be sure to make your rant understandable by everyday people, such as your neighbor, then the seeds of your thoughts are going to reach a lot more minds. And I think that's maybe a goal that you should have. Maybe. Just putting that out. If you just tuned in, this is How to Write Your Rant. I'm Lisa Loving, media, streetjournalist.com. That's street-journalist.com. We're ripping through this How to Write Your Rant workshop. And then the rest of the week, we're going to actually break this down so that anyone who really wants to write a rant can connect with me, and you can come out with something that's concrete that you can share, because these are very odd times all over the world. And I really feel strongly that people should be able to advocate for themselves. Okay. So now I want to share with you my rant, right? Okay. Main point. Our democracy is suffering because the number of journalists reporting on important issues and stories is shrinking. Supporting point. Research has shown the cost of living rises for everyday people in places where there are fewer media outlets. That was a study done by the Pew Trust, P-E-W, Pew Trust. So that's supported by data. I've also found the lack of reporters means a lot of community projects and programs are not being publicized among people who would otherwise get involved and help out. That's also been documented. That's my second supporting point. So here's my final thing. To help strengthen our democratic institutions, we need more everyday people to learn the skills of journalism by reading my book, Street Journalist, Understand and Report the News in Your Community. See what I did there, right? So let me do that again. Our democracy is suffering because the number of journalists reporting on important issues and stories is shrinking. Research has shown the cost of living rises for everyday people in places where there are fewer news outlets. I found the lack of reporters means a lot of community projects and programs are not being publicized among people who would otherwise get involved and help out. And to help strengthen our democratic institutions, we need more everyday people to learn the skills of journalism by reading my book, Street Journalist, Understand and Report the News in Your Community. See what I did there? Now, I want to show you something. I feel really strongly that you have to write stuff down. So my stuff is written down. I really want to encourage everyone to write your ideas down. Your ideas are so important. They're worth holding on to. And I don't care who you are, what your background is. It's something that you should be doing now, right? We need to be putting our heads together to come up with better ways of living where I'm from, which is Portland, Oregon, United States of America, Western Hemisphere, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So a few notes about rant writing, okay? Have you ever heard of Ken Kesey? Ken Kesey, I would say, was one of the greatest novelists in the English language that came from Oregon, right? Ken Kesey wrote sometimes a Great Notion, and he also wrote a little book that you may have heard of before called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was made into a major motion picture. He had a very long and wild life. And so one of the things that he said was, be excellent to each other. I'm going to say that again. Be excellent to each other. Okay? This is important. I see so many people arguing, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But more than anything, the reason we're sharing our thoughts is because we care about each other, even the people we don't like, for real. So, another note, in your call to action, be sure to tell your audience exactly what you're asking them to do. If you want them to call the mayor, I want you to include the mayor's contact information, their phone number. Okay. If you want them to write a letter to somebody, include the address. If you want them to go to a place, give them the date, time, and address. Be specific with your call to action. Okay. It's very, very important. Also, here's another note. I think personally that it's really important that you stay focused on the main points of what you're trying to say and not go down any rabbit holes. Okay. Stay focused on your main message. I myself sometimes just leap sideways and start talking about, I don't know, how the little hat that I got for my dog. I'll talk about anything, but it makes people lose the focus of what I'm trying to say. So that's why I'm saying it's really important that you stay focused on a handful of main points and not go down any rabbit holes. Okay. You'll lose people. And really, again, my final notes about this that are really important. There's so much abusive ranting out in the world. I want to take this moment to apologize to the person on Facebook that I was arguing with yesterday. I would like to make a personal appeal right now. Please avoid cruel personal attacks against individuals. Okay? Please avoid name calling. So important now. You lose people when you do that. And please avoid dishonest and destructive words and intentions. This is so important. There are people out there, are bad people out here who literally are trying to, I'm going to say something negative, hose the people around them with lies and misinformation. And I'm not going to name any names, but I bet that a lot of people listening or watching this right now know who I'm talking about or someone that I'm talking about. Okay? So please avoid name calling and please avoid dishonest and destructive words or intentions. In other words, be excellent to each other. Really. It's why we're here. For real. Okay? So that's what I've got today. If you are listening to this in real time, or if you're listening to the recording of it after it's happened, go over to my Facebook Media for the People and post your questions and comments there. Be excellent now. Also, I'm going to be setting up more workshops, and I'm setting up a little academy to really teach people journalism tools that maybe, we all learn differently. And some people that have maybe read my book, reading something is not the best way for them to learn. But I'm setting up this school, and I'm going to be charging a little bit of tuition. So I hope that you might be willing to invest in your own education as a journalist, as someone who's engaged in your community. It's really very important. Your ideas are so crucial. One thing I haven't had a chance to say yet is that, I've been a journalist since I was a teenager. And yeah, I don't want to be too negative, but I will say that the tools that we use to get most of our information, Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, TikTok, none of these tools were invented in a newsroom. So as we move forward as a society, as a world, as a species, the human race, if we don't bring all of our minds to the table, we're not going to be able to innovate how we educate each other, how we support each other, how we bring each other along in understanding new things. So you might be watching me right now and you never thought that you should be a journalist or something like that. But I'm saying you are one of the best and brightest, and you are one of the places where information comes from and big ideas come from. Write them down, right? So I want to say I'm going to be doing more of these, and I really hope you come along with me. And I'm going to be innovating my digital platforms to bring more and more people with me. And if you're interested in this kind of situation, I want you to follow me on social media and let me know what you think and what you want to know. I would love to hear what kind of information or what kind of trainings you would like, because we're all real people standing in front of screens right now. Yeah. So I'm Lisa Loving on Facebook, also Media for the People. On Twitter, I'm at Lisa Loving. And on Instagram, I'm at L Loving. Look at what happened there. L Loving on Instagram. My website is streetjournalist.com. That's street-journalist.com. Hey, I'm Lisa Loving. Fact checking is your friend. And Riley, the newshound, says, we're going to see you tomorrow night at 6 and talk a little bit more about how to start writing your rant. So thanks for tuning in. Hey, you're awesome.